Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. And we're rolling along with another game one here in the other conference finals matchup. We got the Timberwolves and these Mavericks coming through to you guys in Minnesota. Also have a video up right now already with Pacers and Celtics game one. We're recording this here on Tuesday ahead of both of these games to get some of these early lines and action up for you guys. Make sure to subscribe to that page. We're bringing you best bets from this game in this video. Also have a separate one up with the player props for that game as well. So continue to follow along, subscribe to that page so you can check out each of these videos moving forward every day throughout the playoffs. Also want you to head to thelines.com and use everything we have up on the site right now to help you with these bets you're making throughout this postseason. Nate, let's go ahead and get into your first best bet for game one here in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, and if you saw the futures episode, we like Wolves game one and then to win the series, which is about even money. I'm going to give out a bet that's specific to this game, though. I think the most likely outcome in terms of a correlation is Wolves money line and the under, which you can get at FanDuel at 210 where it opened. It is now about 207 and a half most places. Don't mind that. I think maybe you could buy a point because it's plus 180 if you just take the money line and the current under. But I mean, the correlation here is that the Wolves are going to need to win this on defense. And that Dallas is going to be more at home if it is a game that goes over 210. And they're not going to try to let Luka get comfortable like that. Also, the factor that I talked about, the Mavs have lost 5 straight game ones and just shot absolutely horrendously in several of them. The last 3, in fact, under 40% as a team, scoring 97 or fewer. So if you like Dallas under 102.5, I think that's fair. I mean, maybe there's an initial letdown for the Wolves after beating the champs, but I don't know, man. I think this team, there's also the reverse side of that, which is this team is just galvanized now and like, all right, let's go get it. Let's go get to these finals. But I mean, the on-court thing is like, I am worried that Luka and Kyrie can absolutely roast Rudy Gobert's drop defense and have in the past. But that's also what we said with Booker and Durant going into that series, didn't we? And we also said Jokic has roasted Gobert at every opportunity, and he kind of dispelled that notion. Like, he's just been very good. They're going to be able to keep these Mavs off the boards to a degree, which was such a key to their success last series. Getting the corner three was such a success as well. And getting the free throw line, as always with Luka, is going to be a success. And if he's not getting the free throw line, we know he's going to get a little rattled, a little off his game. And the Wolves, while they didn't win that many games at home against Denver, you could see their 3-point rate allowed and their free throw rate allowed went down at home, just playing that good defense. And I mean, Luka has crushed Jaden in the regular season and put up some really good numbers against Minnesota. But this is not full strength Luka, right? On top of the fact that like he deals with these wild emotional fluctuations, we know he's dealing with multiple injuries. He's settling for a lot of step back threes. So to be like, oh, well, he has a strength advantage here, I don't know. I mean, and we don't really know from a mental standpoint, when's Kyrie going to get his aggression back? Because like, if those guys aren't just like, playing at an all world level, there's not going to be many gaps to find in this Minnesota defense, which is playing at just an insane level. And if they continue this turnover rate, 16% turnover rate in their last 4 against OKC, allowing 20 points per game off turnovers, that's death, right? I mean, you cannot turn the ball over against Minnesota, which could struggle in the half court, I guess. But I mean, I will point out Ant shot really well in 5 of his last 6 against Dallas. I don't really think they have a great matchup for him. If they put PJ on him, then who's guarding Towns? And I mean, yeah, the rebound thing, like they've won or tied Dallas in rebounds in 9 straight meetings, won 6 of those. We know the Stars didn't play much in the regular season when these guys played, but I just think that, yeah, they have enough size to negate what Dallas wants to do there and win a contrasting, a congruent style, right? Where both teams are going to pack the paint, dare you to beat them for the perimeter a little bit more. I think Minnesota's better at playing that game than Dallas, which is new to it.
Yeah, Minnesota's better at it on defense. J-Kidd cooked up some pretty good stuff in this last series. This is different. I think the biggest edge, and my bet is to take the Wolves in game one. But my biggest edge here for the for Minnesota is the amount of different defenders that they can throw on the offense of this Dallas Mavericks team. We saw it with the Nuggets. Now there's going to be some things different. Like Rudy can't play that corner defense or that baseline free safety defense that he might have played necessarily, because Aaron Gordon is not a threat to shoot. Like one of the worst things for Denver was maybe, I say somewhat facetiously, but like Aaron Gordon going 11 for 12 from the field was like, great, we found our solution. And it was like, really? Aaron Gordon shooting long shots as your solution? That doesn't sound like a great call there. Now you're talking about PJ Washington as that dude. I would much rather have Aaron Gordon shooting if I'm Minnesota. So that they can't play that defense necessarily, but they still have, between Jaden McDaniels, Ant and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, like that's ferocious defense with three different guys that you can throw on the backcourt for Dallas. That's going to probably be more important at this point. I don't know if you can even say probably. I think it's clearly more important that the wing and perimeter defense for Minnesota is up to the task more than anything, because like maybe Luka can't get into the lane quite as much, or he can't finish as close to the basket as he might want sometimes. But Luka's perfectly fine hitting that 8-foot little teardrop, and if he's getting into that position, there's not very many dudes that are going to be able to even get a hand up in his way when he's fading back like that at like 6'7", 6'8", whatever he is these days. So they have to keep him from getting there is a big part of that. But the fact that they can throw so many different defenders with that level of tenacity on defense at him, and the combination of he and Kyrie, that says something right there. I think that's going to be what I'm looking for in game one more than anything, is like, is Luka trying to get into the paint or is he settling? And is he able to get into the paint after he's attempting to do so? Because from there, the supercomputer is on freaking crack at that point. It's just like, give him a boost. If he's able to get to those spots, now you're in trouble. It's really just about where Luka is on the floor. He can make any pass, but the best and most effective one is going to be, I'm 9 feet from the basket and 2 to 3 guys collapse on me, and now you're cash out in the perimeter, right? That'll be a key of it. So can they keep him out of the paint? I think they'll probably be able to. Let's start with what you said, where not only did they lose their last 5 game ones for the Mavericks, which, by the way, 0 of them last year, right, because they didn't make the playoffs, but 2 years ago lost 3 of them and won 2 of those series, won both series this playoffs, losing game 1. That said, like, they've also lost by 14.5 points per game in those series. And there is a lot of that going on in the playoffs, really the last couple of seasons. We talk about blowouts, but like, it's really just a matter of, this game is at about 15 points midway through the third quarter, and it's just kind of a lame duck at that point. And the defense the losing team just kind of gives up. So you can see this thing getting out of hand if the Timberwolves hit a few of their threes as well. I think in the paint is where you're going to see the Timberwolves also have an advantage. Dallas was really, really good, obviously, and dominated everything around the basket against OKC. This ain't Chet Holmgren. I mean, the conversation in OKC now is like, can we get somebody alongside Chet? Maybe even if he does get bigger, we want to speed things up. Well, obviously that's the complete opposite of the case here with Minnesota, where it's like, we don't really need much help down low. Now we have we got 3 bigs basically that are all going to be about as good, if not better than your bigs in certain areas of the floor now. So we'll see if we get some Derek Lively, Gafford dual lineups. I don't know that we will necessarily, but it might be a look that we see J Kidd go to. Either way, the paint, turnovers, free throws. So turnovers, Minnesota in the playoffs getting the second most points off of those turnovers. Dallas is allowing 16 points per game to their opponent off of their turnovers on offense, which is going to be something we watch for in game 1. Luka, ton of turnovers in these game 1s. You could call it the feeling out process, but it's like, I don't know. It kind of seems like you guys are just not really bringing it here in game 1 and not really ready mentally, and focused in that sense. And like, this ain't going to be a defense that he's seen in the playoffs yet. We know that, right? Like the Clippers, if they had Kawhi, I would have loved to give them a lot more of a better shot. We were both talking about how like, well, Kawhi is just going to swing this series back when that was going on. Obviously he swung it the wrong way by not playing. And then you go into to OKC and look, their perimeter defense was fine. It was more than fine. It was great. It just wasn't great in the corners. For guys like PJ and Derrick Jones Jr. getting theirs. Even Josh Green came to the party a bunch with a couple threes in a couple different games. So like, that's going to be a sticking point. It's like, you might not have the corners the way that you did in this last game. That's going to be a huge problem. And then that's going to lead to like a bit more turnovers, because when Luka doesn't have that pass to the corner as almost like his outlet, which by the way is impressive in and of itself. Like, how many players in the NBA history are like, well, my outlet is to the pass that's 20 feet away on the other side of the court and it's money every time. Not that often, but he's one of the, if not the best at doing that now in the league. If that's not there, then I'm not sure where he goes, because sometimes he'll get up in the air and lose and then not have anywhere to go with the ball by the time he's jumped and left his feet. There's there's a lot of that going on. And if Minnesota takes away passing lanes because they don't have to double, which is a big key as well, like I said, Luka getting in the lane, then the turnovers will happen, and Minnesota will turn those turnovers into points, especially Ant Edwards, who's from one end of the court to the other before you can blink your eyes. So that's going to continue to be something I watch. The free throws as well. Dallas gotten a lot better at limiting free throws. It's obviously a tale of two seasons for Dallas on defense, but they're still, they went from about 20th in the league in opponent free throw attempt rate down to about 13th in the last 30 games of the season. So they were still top 15, but Minnesota is going to be banging down there. And I don't like Derek Lively's chances quite as much for the Rook if he's got to come in and guard, say, like Cat, even if he has to guard Naz Reid, and especially if he has to guard, well, I shouldn't say especially if he has to guard Rudy. Rudy is good at drawing fouls because they want him to go to the free throw line, but you can't really just, waste through your bigs. We saw that with Denver. I mean, Minnesota was going to the free throw line with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter of Game 7. Tell me that didn't impact how that series and final game went. So if the free throws, the turnovers, and Luka's ability to get in the paint, those are kind of the three X factors I'm watching. I like this to be Minnesota's win in Game 1. I think Jay Kidd, I can't believe I'm saying this again, but I believe in his ability to make adjustments into Game 2. So we'll revisit this. I'm almost hoping that this is a 20 to 25 point blowout, and I can take Dallas at a bloated spread in Game 2, coming back maybe plus 7.5 or 6.5, somewhere around there. But I think at least 4 right now is a good number for the Timberwolves to get under and cover this spread.
Yeah, I mean, Luka and the boys showed no concern after dropping Game 1 pretty decisively in OKC. So that doesn't really lead me to believe as a team that's going to buck that trend and be like, we got to get Game 1. It's that's been their MO, and they're fine with it. Call it the feeling out phase, if you will, which is part of why I'm taking under 106.5 in the first half, which is actually a higher total than you will get in the second half. In this particular instance, I like in a Game 1 where Dallas especially tends to really need to figure out how they're defending Luka and Kyrie. And I mean, I don't expect Minnesota's offense to just suddenly come out guns blazing. As we've seen, that rarely happens. I mean, their offense is still a concern if you're backing them here. They have the lowest offensive rating and the lowest defensive rating in the first half last round, and consistently went under with Denver, including that pitifully low Game 7 first half. But the number 2 transition defense in the first half, which is going to be key here to force Dallas to figure things out in the half court. Both teams allowed 21 paint points or less. They've allowed 59% at the rim, which is excellent, or less. Dallas, their first few against LAC in that feeling out phase, 86, 86, and 95 were the totals there. Then they started to have a little bit wonky where they gave up a ton of points. And then their first 2 went over at OKC, I would argue, because there was a little bit of an outlier free throw rate in that first game, and then OKC both teams kind of shot the lights out in the next game. But OKC also really likes to push the pace more than Minnesota, with Mike Conley in there. Totally fine, playing half court when they don't get out and run off turnovers. Totally fine, mucking it up defensively. Keeping Luka away from his spots, as you outlined. It's pretty simple. Cap for me is just this game, especially in the beginning, is going to be about the 2 best defenses in the playoffs so far flexing their stuff, and the other offenses trying to figure out how are we going to find some seams here. I still lean towards Minnesota to cover in the first half at home here, but I think it's safer to just say under in general.
I concur. I am a little bit worried about the under. I know we were speaking about that a little bit recently. The only thing I'd worry, not the first half, to be honest. I mean, more so just in general for the game, at 209 still or so. The only thing I worry about is the matchups that we're talking about, does the offense prevail? Just really that simple. Does the offense prevail over the defense, and do the defensive adjustments really come in Game 2? But I can see this being a bit of a letdown for Minnesota early, like we've kind of mentioned already. I do think that's a little bit more human nature. It's 55-45 is my level of confidence when I say this, that they're going to come out slow. Dallas as well, Game 1, that's just really what it comes down to. Game 1 for Dallas, not getting above 100 points in 4 of those 5 Game 1s that they've gone under, getting waxed. So that would be what I'd consider as well. But if the role players come in and make their shots for Dallas, if turnovers happen for Dallas as well, and that leads to easy buckets for Minnesota. That would be the worry there. But for the most part for this series, yeah, I'm going under 210 consistently. And I'm continuing to like the unders as we move forward with defensive adjustments. This would be the game that I'd be like, maybe there's going to be a few more points scored. But I still think overall, if you make this bet in each of these games moving forward at around this number, you're going to be good. And I think this number is obviously going to drop by like, games 4 or so, game 3, even, where things really start to slow down a bit more for both teams. But to the point here of threes, I'm going to take a bet here, where a head-to-head bet, but it's a little bit different. So you know how you can take those head-to-head bets on DraftKings for guys to score more, get rebounds, whatever, more than another player in an individual one-on-one matchup there in that sense. Well, you can also just take them combined. And I was trying to figure out what I like, because I really do like Kyrie threes a bit more. I do think there's something to that drop defense that you mentioned from Rudy. We've seen Kyrie take a few more threes against this team than in general and other teams for him. But if they both combine to hit 5 threes, it's minus 115 on DraftKings to go over 4.5 for both of them. If you're going to just take one of them, I lean towards Kyrie threes, because what drew me to this bet originally was my thought that Cat's not going to be able to make quite as many buckets from deep against a versatile defender like PJ Washington. But I do think that he's still going to he's going to get a few of these kick out threes and things of that nature, and second chance point threes for Cat if he's not crashing the offensive boards quite as much. And PJ Washington will need to be down there crashing those offensive boards a bit more. So that's why I ended up just taking both of them. Cat's been so good from 3 this postseason. I mean, 2.3 for 4.8. So, damn near 50% for him, that he's shooting 47% from deep. Not quite the same volume of threes that he's taken, but if he takes 5 to 6 in this game, I do like him to keep hitting those shots. He's just pulling those with confidence, man. It's crazy to watch him just be nope, no thought. And a lot of big threes too for him. There wasn't really too many moments that seemed too big for Cat. And that would have been a big knock against him coming into these playoffs. So I'm really saying one of these dudes needs to hit 3, and I don't want to have to figure out which one it is. So I'm sort of taking the cowardly way out, because I could also see Kyrie hitting 4 in this one, and then you just need 1 from Cat. So rather than just play that head-to-head for 1 to hit more, I did get them for that, the combined to get 5. Cat, I think, will also get some of those in the corner. That is where you've seen Dallas be incredibly weak throughout the season. They give up the fifth most made threes from the corner and 4th most attempted. And that is where they are funneling the ball for that reason. So yeah, there's going to be other guys like Jaden McDaniels, and it will probably be also a beneficiary of that. He hit a ton of corner threes in the last 3 games of this last series, and was really one of the better players for Minnesota in the last couple games as well. But at the same time, Cat, if he wants to go, he's been on the wing or a little bit down towards the corner to get a lot of his threes so far in the playoffs, and that's the best shot in basketball, basically, right? The best place to be shooting your 3-pointers. So I went for both of them here. Like I said, for Kyrie against Minnesota, a few more threes come. 8.5 threes attempted in the 2 games they played in the regular season, and in the last 5, when he's playing a Rudy Gobert team, which 3 of those games came against Brooklyn, he's still averaging more than he would otherwise, right? 8.2 threes taken in these last 5 versus a Rudy Gobert team, whereas normally he's taking about 7.3 on the season, and actually only about 6.3 in the playoffs. But I think he's got to take more in here. So like I'm saying here, if you're taking a single on the threes here, I prefer Kyrie to Cat, but I think both of them are to combine are good. For Kyrie, if he takes 7, he makes 3.5 so far. In the playoffs, he's got 7 game. That's on the regular season. In 47 games during the regular season, he took at least 7 threes, and in those 47 games, he went over 2.5 37 times for an 80% hit rate there. So I have to believe that not only is there an understanding that him taking threes is good for this team, it's also going to be something that's just he's forced into with the way that he's not necessarily as likely to go inside against Gobert and company. So we'll take him to get the attempts, in which case I like him to get the 3 for sure. And there's just better juice for adding Cat to get 2 himself as well in this sense.
Yeah, no qualms on Cat getting a few open looks here with all the attention on Ant. He's plus 750 to lead the game in threes, which is interesting. Kyrie, I think it takes some big balls to bet on his points in general. But I think, the threes against this kind of rangy defense, he should have a higher 3-point attempt rate than trying to go to the basket as much, although he can finish amongst the trees. But I see where you're going with this, and it makes sense. And Kyrie is 4-1 to lead the game in threes. I just don't trust Luka to hit threes consistently until somebody lights a fire under him. So hopefully the Minnesota front center court fans keep their mouth shut and don't get him going.
Yeah, 100%. I don't really want to see Luka jawing with anybody, much less the fans, and certainly not the refs. So yeah, let's keep it PG here, fellas. That is all the time, though, that we have for you in Best Bets here for Game 1 in this Western Conference Finals. Also have a Play of Props video up, as we're bringing you each and every day now for each playoff game moving forward. So until we see you next, happy betting.